Yes.
I know what they were thinking when they put 6 together. It's like a very wonky district.
Well, I think all of them are. I mean, 5 is.
Welcome all. It is a beautiful evening to be gathered here on this Wednesday. We ask that you please find a seat. We have a few housekeeping items for you all.
Thank you, Trey. Just some basic ground rules for a respectful environment. First, refrain from clapping, booing, or otherwise showing your approval or disapproval of any response or candidate. Not taking flash pictures from your seats or displaying signs by laying them against the side wall. These rules are in place so we can have a professional and good meeting.
We would like to welcome to the candidate forum for the Albuquerque Public Schools Board of Education Districts 3, 5, 6, and 7. District 3 encompasses Del Norte, Valley, and Albuquerque High School, and their feeder elementary and middle schools. The district is currently represented by Board Member President Daniel Gonzalez, who is seeking re-election. She is running against Isaac Alexander Flores and Rebecca Marie Benson.
District 5 covers West Mesa and its feeder elementary and middle schools. Joshua S. Martinez and Bryant Kevin Laurent Jr. are vying for the board's position currently held by Crystal Tapia Romero, who is not seeking re-election.
District 6 includes Manzano and Sandia High Schools and their feeder and elementary schools. 2 candidates are running in that district, David Adam Ams and Margaret Waiga Bowman. Josefina Dominguez, who currently holds the seat, is not seeking re-election.
District 7 covers La Cueva and El Dorado High School and their feeder elementary and middle schools. Board Vice President Courtney Jackson who is seeking re-election. She is running against Kristen Renee Wood Hegner in that district. And now I would like to pass the time to Mr. Leroy.
Good, you can clap. No, just kidding. All right, thank you, gentlemen, very much. All right, everybody. What time is it? Dawash Tawash Up Sehopa, Wahename Leroy Buster Silva Gawana, Shashka Hanu Hapani Washti Goikame Goik So. So greetings, everybody. My name is Leroy Buster Silva, and I am from the Pueblo of Laguna, which is 40 miles west of here. And I'm also the executive director for the Laguna Community Foundation. It is my honor and privilege to be here to help moderate with some amazing students as well. So that's just my introduction. So again, please give a hand for Trey Hill. He's a junior at Volcano Vista High School. And also, and Manny Harrison, a senior at Cibola High School. And we are your moderators for this evening. So thank you very much for having us tonight. So also too, even though there's some people in this place and space right now, we have some relatives and some supporters, friends on YouTube as well. So wherever the cameras are, if you could wave to them. Where's the cameras? Over here somewhere? Yeah. So hello, everybody on YouTube. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. All right. The order of answering the questions will be rotated. For each question will be based on numerical and alphabetical order. Our candidates are seated in alphabetical and district numerical order. Questions were gathered from the community. And to try to address as many issues as possible, we combined questions on the same topic. Questions asked will be posed on the APS EDU website. Each candidate will have 1 minute for opening remarks. and generally 1 minute to answer each question. I may increase or decrease response time depending on the number of questions, the complexity of questions, and the amount of debate time remaining. Our timekeepers tonight, all right, very important people tonight, is Dr. Joseph Escobedo. He's the APS Director of Charter Schools. Let's give him a round of applause. And Joseph, can you check that bell? All right, that's what you're gonna hear. Thank you very much. Also, too, we have the APS Policy Analyst and Government Affairs Liaison, Miss Jessica Martinez. So, Jessica, can you give us a ring of a bell, please? All right, and can you hold up the signs that will be used tonight? So, candidates, you have 1 minute, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and stop. And you'll hear the bell as well. So thank you very much for everybody for doing that for us tonight. And on a more serious topic, in light of the current political climate, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all the candidates who are dedicating their time and effort to pursue public office. Your commitment to serving the community and engaging in the democratic process is truly commendable. Thank you for taking on this important responsibility. And due to limited time, let's get started. So we will begin with opening remarks from all of our candidates for District 3. There are 3 candidates running to represent District 3 on the APS board, 2 candidates running for District 5, 2 candidates running in District 6, and 2 candidates running in District 7. Ms. Benson running in District 3 and Mr. Ames running in District 6 are unable to be with us this evening, but they have provided some statements, which I am going to introduce, bring Trey back up to read Ms. Benson's statement at this time, and then followed by Manny.
Here we go. My name is Rebecca Benson. My apologies that I cannot be there for the forum. I am out of state at a family wedding that was scheduled before I even knew that I would run for school board. Now, while I truly wish I could be there with you tonight, I want to thank APS and the organizers for making space for me to share a few words. I was born and raised in the North Valley, just blocks from where I live today. I've spent 27 years teaching in APS middle schools, Washington, Jimmy Carter, and Garfield. My husband teaches at Valley High. All 4 of our kids graduated from APS, and now my grandchildren are APS students too. The district is more than where I live. It's where I've built my life. I'm running for the APS board because I believe in our community. I believe that it deserves a voice that comes from the classroom, someone who knows what it means to work with students every day, to talk with parents, and to stand up for public education when it counts. We've seen what happens when decisions are made without listening. I want to help rebuild trust in APS. This is personal for me, not political. I believe our district needs leadership that listens, leads with compassion, and puts families, teachers, and students first. If elected, I will fight against vouchers and any effort to privatize our schools. Ensure parents and communities are heard, especially when big changes are on the table. Advocate for safe, welcoming, and fully funded schools for every student. Stand up for our educators because we can't support our kids without supporting our teachers. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Albuquerque Teachers Federation, community leaders, and public servants I deeply admire, including Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury and many of your local state legislators and school advocates. Their support tells me we're building something special, a campaign grounded in experience, care, and community. Although I couldn't attend tonight, I'm looking forward to joining future forums and community events. In the meantime, I plan to share my responses to all the questions posed at tonight's forum via email this week so that everyone can hear where I stand and what I believe. That's how we build trust with transparency and follow through. Thank you for all you do for our schools, and thank you for being here tonight. I would be honored to earn your vote and to your trust. You can learn more or reach out directly at www.friendsofrebecca.com. Thank you. And now I would like to invite Manny back to the stage for our next candidates.
This is a message from Mr. David Ames, and it reads, "My name is David Ames. I am honored to be a candidate for District 6. I've been looking forward to tonight's forum and preparing for this important conversation. Unfortunately, due to an unexpected medical emergency, I am unable to join you this evening. While I can't be here in person, I am committed to ensuring you hear directly from me. Once I recover, I will share my responses to tonight's questions so you can learn more about my priorities and my beliefs that together we can improve our schools and provide every student in Albuquerque with the education they deserve to live full, successful, and happy lives. Thank you for understanding, and I look forward to meeting you at future community events." You. And back to Mr. Leroy.
All right. Y'all good to go? You ready? Are you ready? Yeah? All right, let's go. All right, Manny, you were supposed to say something cool about my hair, remember? Maybe he can save that for later. All right, so each candidate has been asked to share 1 minute of opening statement. We will start with Mr. Flores, who is running in District 3.
Hello, everybody. My name is Isaac Flores, and I'm running for school board in District 3. And I'm running because, like many of you, I'm deeply concerned about the attacks we're seeing on education across the country, whether that be the attack on truth that's trying to be rewritten into curriculum, or the attempts to ban books in our schools, and the very real gun problem that we're seeing not just in APS campuses, but across the country. I'm running as your neighbor and as someone who is deeply concerned about these very real issues that face our students. I started off my career in corrections, where I got to see the school to prison pipeline up close and how that devastates New Mexico's families. I've worked with our disabled New Mexicans, and I know how that lack of support impacts their education. And as a child resource advocate who works with our juvenile detention members and their families, I know exactly what it is that they need to be successful, and that's why I'm here tonight asking for your support.
Thank you very much, Mr. Flores. And we have Danielle Gonzalez representing District 3.
Thank you. I'm Danielle Gonzalez. First and foremost, I'm mom to Izzy, Andrew, and Rosie, who are 9, 12, and 15, and all go to our schools. I'm a daughter of Albuquerque, and I'm a proud product of Albuquerque Public Schools from Valley High School, which then led me on to a career in education policy. I had the opportunity to work with education leaders all over this country on ed policy issues ranging from teacher leadership and teacher professional development to social emotional learning and school climate and culture, and was very honored to join this board in 2022, where I was able to bring my expertise to bear. Also, since 2022, both the board and the administration have been able to implement strategies and initiatives that have led to improved proficiency in math, improved proficiency in reading, improved graduation rates, more equitable allocation of resources, and I would like to continue that work. I'm a proven change agent. I think we need steady leadership, and I think we need to stay the course. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Danielle. Brian Laurent Jr., District 5.
Good evening. My name is Brian Lorentz, and I am a candidate running in District 5. I would first like to thank APS for hosting this event and thank our moderator for participating as well. I also want to thank APS for 6 wonderful years as a district employee, both in the classroom and here at City Center. I am running on experience and expectations. I have 12 years of experience working at the school, district, and state levels in public education. Most importantly, as a special education teacher at James Monroe Middle School here in APS, I taught 7th grade math to students with disabilities. Another part of my experience is I am a proud Governing Council member for Mountain Mahogany Community School, an APS authorized charter school. I have served on that governing council for nearly 3 years and provides me with transferable experience that I would bring to the board. Finally, expectations. Although I am in favor of the goals and the guardrails, I believe that the goals, especially in goals 1 and 2, are too low. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Laurent. We have Joshua Martinez, District 5.
Yes, good evening. Thank you so much for everyone for being here tonight. I am Joshua Martinez, candidate for APS School Board in District 5, which is on the west side of Albuquerque. I'm a husband of 14 years to my beautiful wife who's here with us today. Together we have 3 young children, 2 of which attend our APS school on the west side. I'm also a product of public schools, and I come from a family of public educators. So public education is in my blood. I believe that public education is a fundamental right for everyone. I believe that every child deserves a quality education, no matter the neighborhood that they come from or their home situation. I believe APS has its strengths, but we know that we also have its struggles, and I know that we can do better. I'm excited for the opportunity to help our students thrive, because when our students thrive, Albuquerque will strive. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martinez. Margaret Warrigia Bowman. I want to make sure I got that right.
Thank you, Mr. Silva. As you heard, my name is Margaret Warrigia Bowman. I am running for school board in District 6. That covers Sandia High School, Manzano, and the East Mountains. The first thing I want you to know about me is that, like many of my colleagues here, I'm an educator. I've taught at the college, graduate school, and law school level for 18 years, and I'm currently employed as an environmental law professor. Another thing I need you to know about me is I am also a proud product of New Mexico Public Schools. I went to public school in northern New Mexico, and my grandma taught in Manuelito on Navajo Nation. So I just want to emphasize that I understand pedagogy. I'm committed to our Yazzie Martinez populations, and I will bring all of my skills and knowledge in the classroom to this position, and I appreciate your support.
Thank you very much, Warrigia. Now, Courtney Jackson, District 7.
Thank you. Yes, I am Courtney Jackson. I am the proud parent of 2 beautiful daughters who attend APS schools. I am a La Cueva graduate myself, go Bears, a lifelong Albuquerque resident, and the current vice president of the school board. Above all else, I have spent my time being committed to putting students first. I believe that at its core, the work of the board is to focus on student achievement, accountability, and community engagement, not politics and not rhetoric. Through the goals and the guardrails that we have established, I am proud to say that what we're doing is working. Our reading and math outcomes have improved. More students are ready for graduation, and our families and community are having a stronger voice. I was elected 4 years ago to be a change agent, and I have spent every single day since that time doing just that.
Thank you very much, Courtney. Now we have, last but not least, Kristen Wood Hegner, District 7.
Thank you. My name is Kristen Wood Hegner. I'm running for Albuquerque School Board, District 7 in the Northeast Heights. I am a very proud mom to a gifted student with disabilities, and I have been a relentless advocate for my child to receive support and services at APS. And I don't think it's fair that my child gets services because I'm her mom, while other students go without. So I'm running for school board to be an advocate for every child. I have also taught English as a second language on 3 different continents. And I've spent most of my career in public safety, advocating for victims to get the justice they deserve, and recently managed $12 million in our state to address violent crime.
Thank you very much, Kristen. And thank you very much, candidates, for introducing yourself. And now we'll begin asking questions that were submitted by the community. And Danielle Gonzalez, you are first up. And then we'll rotate to your left and come right back to Mr. Flores. First question for you, Ms. Gonzalez. What is the difference between the role of the superintendent and the role of a board member?
Yeah, thank you.
This will be for 1 minute. Sorry about that. 1 minute.
I'll start with the role of the school board, which according to New Mexico State statute is to approve policy, to approve the budget, and to hire, manage, and evaluate the superintendent. All of that, I believe, needs to be in the interest of improving student outcomes, which means all of that, the budget, the policy, and the superintendent evaluation needs to align to student outcomes. I also believe it's the responsibility of school board members to be prepared to read materials, to ask questions, and to be strategic about their work and stay out of the work of the superintendent. And their role is to run the district. So all of the other administrative work, being responsible for determining the strategy, determining the curriculum, determining the instruction, hiring and firing and supporting school staff, all falls under the purview of the superintendent.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Brian Laurent Jr. Same question. Do you need to repeat it?
No, thank you.
No, okay. 1 minute.
This is something that I'm very familiar with. I mentioned during my introduction that for the past 3 years, I've served on the governing council for Mount Mahogany Community School. Now, it's just one school, and APS is a large urban school district with many schools. However, the responsibility that we have as a governing council at Mount Mahogany is similar to the responsibility shared by APS board members. The hallmark, in my opinion, of an effective board member is the ability to ask questions. And that is where I will be leaning very heavily on my experience to ask the questions that are sometimes hard and are currently being unasked. The board has one employee. For APS, that would be the superintendent. And the board has to do their due diligence to ensure that they're selecting the right candidate, because the board is not in place to micromanage the work of the superintendent. The board, besides hiring the superintendent, must also evaluate and potentially fire the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. Mr. Martinez, do you need to repeat?
No, thank
No.
you.
Okay, 1 minute.
Yes, so the Board of Education has three primary responsibilities, as it's been mentioned: to create and adopt district policy, to hire, fire, evaluate, manage the superintendent, and to review and approve the budget. I agree, and I think that all of these things need to be, we need to keep in mind student outcomes. Everything that we do needs to be centered around student outcomes. These are big responsibilities that the board has. And if given the opportunity, I would be prepared and ready to face those responsibilities head on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martinez. Warigia, do you need a repeat?
No, thank you.
1 minute.
So the school board represents the public in public schools. School board members have two really important constituents. One constituency is the schools and parents in their specific district, but another constituency is all the schools and parents throughout APS. There's no question that the superintendent plays a critical role in implementation, but I argue that we should look at implementation as a collaborative effort between the superintendent, principals, teachers, and parents. So I think implementation needs to be an ongoing conversation between all of these stakeholders.
Thank you very much. Courtney Jackson, do you need a repeat?
I do not.
Oh,
Thank
all
you.
right. 1 minute.
Okay. I will actually try not to repeat what some people have already said. We've been doing this work now for 4 years, but there is a really clear distinction. The fact that the board is the entity that governs and the superintendent is the one who implements the goals. The job of the board is to set the vision, to adopt goals, to establish guardrails, to approve a budget in support of those goals, and to hold the superintendent accountable to those goals. What the board does is we focus on the what, which are the outcomes, and the why they matter for our students. The superintendent handles the how by managing the daily operations, staffing, curriculum, etc. I think one thing that's crucial to point out is that unlike, say, a legislature, we are one governing body. We are united in our work to advance the goals, and we are not 7 individuals with 7 different agendas.
Thank you very much, Courtney. Moving on to Kristen Wood-Hegner. Do you need to repeat?
Yes, please.
Okay. What is the difference between the role of the superintendent and the role of a board member?
Thank you.
1 minute.
A good school board member is an advocate for every student to receive a quality education. And our most sacred duty is to keep students safe while they're in the care of the district. A good school board member provides strong fiscal oversight and ensures every taxpayer dollar is being used responsibly and effectively. And the school board holds the superintendent accountable to the community and ensures the concerns of parents, students, and teachers are being addressed.
Thank you very much, Kristen. We move on to our last candidate, Isaac Flores. Same question.
The role of the board is extremely important as a governing body. I believe it's super important that between the board and the role of the superintendent is that we work together in unison to make sure that we're not only developing real policy that helps students, but also making sure that we're listening to our communities and the very real concerns that they have. We know that we are supposed to create policy, approve the budget, and most importantly, have that partnership to make sure that we're making real change that our community wants to see and that it's rooted in the classroom and what our parents are saying on the ground. It is important that we open up the classroom to the public and make sure that everybody has a seat at the table. That is the only way this process works, is by making sure that we all have a say in these students' education.
All right, thank you very much. That concludes question number 1. Thank you for your responses. Moving on to question number 2. Brian, this is your question first. School board decisions are often spark strong community reactions, both supportive and critical. How would you engage with the community to build trust, listen to concerns, and respond to pushback while still making decisions in the best interest of students? 1 minute.
Ultimately, constituents, not just in District 5, but throughout APS, they need to know what my values are. And one of the reasons, the many reasons why I'm excited to be here tonight is to share my values with you. Most importantly, as a former special education teacher, and sharing with you that my value is that all students can learn and all students can meet high expectations. And my decision-making will always go back to a student-centered approach first and always. If I am lucky enough to be elected to the board, I would engage with the community in a number of ways. I would rely on the district and colleagues on the board to figure out what has been done in the past in terms of engagement. I would be responsive in terms of emails. Even as a candidate, I'm sure we've all received the same candidate questionnaires, and I've done a good job of responding to those to ensure that folks know why I'm running and what I would do as a board member. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Joshua, same question.
Please repeat the question.
Yes, sir. School board decisions often spark strong community reactions, both supportive and critical. How would you engage the community to build trust, listen to concerns, and respond to pushback while still making decisions in the best interest of students? 1 minute.
Great, thank you for the question. I've been a member of the West Side for a number of years, and I've been a part of the West Side, involved in the West Side in a number of different areas. Currently, a HOA president of my homeowners association, currently the president of my neighborhood association, and involved in many other boards in community events and activities across the West Side. So people know me in the West Side. They know where I stand, what I do, what I'm about. I'm family oriented. I have a young family where we decided to raise our family on the West Side because of all the great things that the West Side has to offer. And so my values and ideals ultimately are to center student-centered focus as well. And my constituents, as well as the rest of the community, understand that that's where my heart is, where my passion is. And I am very available for everyone to reach me and contact me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Very good. Do you need a repeat?
Yes.
Yes, all
Long
right.
Question.
School board decisions often spark strong community reactions, both supportive and critical. How would you engage the community to build trust, listen to concerns, and respond to pushback while still making decisions in the best interest of students?
I just want to say the most important word you said in that question is listen. So I went to the Yazzie Martinez listening session on August 20th, and I learned so much from different parents about wonderful opportunities we have to make our schools stronger. And one idea that I brought back to my own classroom is, how do we celebrate the strengths that students bring to us? I'm a big fan of having town halls, focus groups, and I think we should audit our strategic plan on a biannual basis, which is another chance for parents and constituents to give us feedback.
Thank you very much. Courtney, do you need to repeat?
No, I think I'm okay.
Okay, 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. So, yes, obviously there are lots of hard decisions that have to be made by board members all the time. And I think that one way that we can build trust is by being very clear about what the roles and responsibilities are, while always maintaining a focus on improving our student outcomes, focusing on their long-term goals and their improvement. I think one thing that I have tried to do is really explain that certain decisions, everything from hiring principals to bus schedules, are superintendent's job and not the work of the board. But that certainly doesn't mean that I have ever ignored concerns. I do believe it is my responsibility and my obligation to listen, to elevate their input when need be, and to stay engaged during the process at all times. So we recognize that not every outcome is going to satisfy everyone, but if we're transparent and responsive and maintain an ongoing dialogue, we can build trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Kristen, do you need a repeat? All right. School board decisions often spark strong community reactions, both supportive and critical. How would you engage with the community to build trust, listen to concerns, and respond to pushback while still making decisions in the best interest of students? 1 minute.
A good school board member is also a voice for the community. This school board likes to talk about community engagement, but when I went to one of those community engagement events to talk to my school board member about student safety, I was dismissed. And that's one of the reasons I'm running for office. Many parents and staff in the La Cueva community have shared with me how unhappy they are with the superintendent. And it's the board's responsibility to ensure that the community is listened to. When the community is ignored, that falls on the board. We need to restore transparency. And there are some simple things we can do. We can bring back the direct contact information for the school board members so community members can easily contact their elected officials. We need to lift the undemocratic policy that prohibits some board members from speaking publicly about their votes. We need to truly listen and engage.
Thank you, Kristen. Moving on to Isaac. Same question. Do you need a repeat?
Yes, please.
All right. School board decisions often spark strong community reactions, both supportive and critical. How would you engage with the community to build trust, listen to concerns, and respond to pushback while still making decisions in the best interest of students? 1 minute.
I believe that word trust that's within your question is so important. First, we need to start by rebuilding trust with the community that has been lost, which also falls into what I had said previously about opening up the classroom for those that are in the community. Ultimately, if we're following our values and we're taking care of our students and the most vulnerable students within our communities, we know that regardless of pushback, we are in good company. It is important that while on the APS board, that we make sure that we are fighting for the majority of students and making sure that we are fighting for our most vulnerable and those that don't have a voice. So it is super important that if we're going to build trust, that we show we're in this fight for all students.
Thank you very much, Mr. Flores. Danielle Gonzalez, do you need a repeat?
No, thank you.
Okay, 1 minute.
Thank you. I want to take it piece by piece and starting with the building trust component. I think the most important thing that we can do is to be transparent, to communicate our timelines and to communicate our guardrails in terms of what informs what we can and can't make decisions on. I think we need to be present in our community, and I think we need to listen. To listen to concerns, I think we need to listen to everybody. We need to listen to PTAs. We need to attend neighborhood association meetings. We need to read our emails. We need to host town halls. We need to host community conversations. We need to listen to public forum. I think to respond to pushback, I would like to acknowledge that not every decision is easy, and there's no way to keep every single person in Albuquerque happy all the time. That's just the facts. And so to guide that, I would always center students and families first. Center students, center equity, and center student outcomes. I think you need to listen to multiple point of views, and at the end of the day, prioritize what is best for the largest group of students in our whole community, not just any one group of parents.
All right, that concludes question number 2. We are rolling along here. Joshua Martinez, you have the first jump on number 3. Here's your question, and it is for 1 minute. What ideas do you have to strengthen partnerships between schools and families to support student success?
Yes, thank you for the question. As a parent involvement is very important. My wife and I are very involved with our students' education. I think that is needs to be something that's important for everyone. It's a crucial part of our students' lives to have parents being involved with their education, whether that's helping them read at night, whether that's helping them prioritize homework, whatever it may be. Parents' roles are critical. The teacher-parent relationship needs to be built on trust. We need to have teachers who really believe in our students. That's very important. When teachers believe in our students that they can do anything that they want to do, that also helps with the relationship between teachers and parents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martinez. Warigia, do you need a repeat?
Yes, please.
All right. Question number 3. What ideas do you have to strengthen partnerships between schools and families to support student success? 1 minute.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to mention that I have 2 children in high school at APS. I have a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old son at Sandia High, and also that I'm an immigrant's kid. So I think when we talk about connecting with the community, we need to make sure that we include those English language learners. As we've heard from myself and a few other candidates, I like the idea of town halls. I had a great experience at the Yazzie Martinez listening session, and I think we should do biannual audits, which give parents and community members a chance to say what they think is going well in terms of the goals and guardrails in the strategic plan and areas where they'd like to see improvement.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Courtney. Courtney, do you need a repeat?
Yes, please.
Okay. What ideas do you have to strengthen partnerships between schools and families to support student success?
All right, thank you so much for that. So I think in order to strengthen our partners between our schools and our families, the first thing that we need to do and continue to do is to have open, consistent communication with a shared focus on what student success is. Families are our child's first teachers, and schools are much more effective when they honor and build upon that bond. As a board member, I have worked really hard and diligently to be out amongst my community. And I believe that our role is to continue to do that and to continue to do policies and allocate resources so that it makes it easier for our schools to engage families in meaningful ways. Some of the ways that we've done that is increased our community engagement events. I usually go to PTA meetings, but more than that, I also spend time out with organizations who have a relationship with APS, and that was fast.
Thank you very much, Courtney.
Okay.
Kristen, same question.
You. One thing I really love about Albuquerque Public Schools is our community schools. And community schools are a really cool model that address the root causes of the challenges that families and students are facing that impede student outcomes. So they provide support, services, community building to ensure that every family and student has the tools they need to succeed. So I'd like to expand on this model. And recently I went to one of those community schools, the Native American Community School, and they had a powwow, and I talked to several of the students there, and many of them were engaging in cultural crafts, traditional crafts in a generational way with their families. And I asked them what they liked about their school, and they said they felt respected, their needs were taken care of, and they felt like they were a real community.
Thank you, Kristen. Moving on to Mr. Flores, same question.
Perfect. So as many of you know, education doesn't just end at the classroom, which is why it's so important that we're investing in our community schools, that we're investing in parent training so that our parents can make sure that they're helping assist these students with education outside of the classroom, and that we have an open line of communication so that we actually have that partnership that we need with our parents. As someone who works within the juvenile detention system, I work with these families every day that do not have the support that they need, and I've seen the devastating consequences of that. So if we want to make any real impact or a real difference, we need to make sure that we're supporting these most vulnerable students and their families, and that they have these support systems outside of school so that they can actually succeed when they're within the classroom.
Thank you very much. Danielle Gonzalez, same question.
Great, thank you. I do think the community schools are critically important and that we should continue to invest both in that model and in those roles, particularly our community school coordinators. I think part of coordinating between school and family is also engaging employers, because that's where our families are during the day. And so I think working with employers, including our unions, to make sure that we're providing work-based learning, experiential learning, and internship opportunities for our students. I think the district needs to prioritize responsiveness and make sure that everyone in the district, no matter what their role, is respectful and responds to all questions and concerns from the community. I think we need to continue our parent and student advisory councils at the school level and at the district level. And I think we need to communicate a holistic vision of success between our families and our students, which includes academic as well as social emotional well-being. And I think the best thing we could do to support our schools and our families together would be also to advocate for paid family leave.
Thank you. Brian, do you need a repeat?
I do not.
Okay.
I am a strong proponent of the community school strategy. I hope to provide more details about that in a later question. The question was about partnerships between schools and families. I want to talk specifically about teachers and families. And I want to talk about specifically my experience as a special education teacher. 100% of my students had IEPs. And I told my students at the beginning of the school year and throughout the school year that they were lucky to have an IEP. And one of the big reasons why my students were lucky to have an IEP is because of the relationship between myself as their math teacher or case manager and the families. One of the best parts of being a teacher is engaging with families. Oftentimes, students in special education, they hear about their deficits. Their families hear about their deficits. One of the reasons why I was successful working with the families of my students is because even though we have to have a conversation about what we need to do to work together, all students have strengths.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you very much, Candice, for answering 3 questions. I do event emceeing, so it's hard to give them a round of applause, but so I'm trying to restrain myself. So we are moving along. We are at question number 4. Warigia Bowman, you are next up for number 4. And this is for 45 seconds. 45 seconds, timekeepers ready to roll. Question number 4. How will you increase community engagement with parents and educators and ensure all voices of your constituents are heard?
Okay, well, this reminds me of the last question, but I think one of the things that we need to do is figure out from our communities. We spend a lot of time talking about the deficits in our communities, but what are the assets and strengths which our communities bring? And that will help each school, help our teachers and our administrators to connect more closely with those communities. And I'd also like to have a skills-based focus where parents and community members can help teach in the schools, not based on their education, but based on their traditional skills or other cultural skills they may have.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Courtney. Same question.
Repeat it one more time, just
All
in
right.
case.
How will you increase community engagement with parents and educators and ensure all voices of your constituents are heard? 45 seconds.
This is a great question because this is something we've been working really hard on over the past few years to increase our community engagement. So one thing that we are really working on that I hope to continue is to make sure that major decisions that are made, including the budget, when we set the goals, when we have big decisions, we go out to the community. We make sure that we go out to you. We don't expect you to come to us. We have also, on the Community Engagement Ad Hoc Committee, have set very specific goals as to families that might not typically come to events like that. And so we have as a board, have made an effort to make sure that we reach out to those families very specifically to invite them to our events.
Thank you very much, Courtney. Kristen, same question.
Thank you. So I already talked a little bit about how we would engage with families and students, but I want to address the other part of that question. How would we communicate with educators, our teachers and staff? And I think it's really important to work closely with the union, the teachers union, hear what their concerns are, and make sure we're providing a safe, positive environment for our teachers, and we're respecting the collective bargaining process.
All right. Thank you very much, Kristen. Isaac, same question.
I believe it's super important that as a board member, we spend more time in our communities and within our schools. The best way to understand the very real challenges that our students, our parents, and our educators face is to be within those classrooms. It's very easy to, stand from a position like this and see things on a spreadsheet. But unless you're on the ground with these parents and with these teachers, you don't understand the issues as they are. So it's super important that we're working closely with our educators, our parents, and listening to our students.
Thank you very much, Isaac. Ms. Gonzalez, same question.
Thank you. I wanted to narrow in about the point around all voices, because frequently people think about community engagement as meaning some voices or perhaps even the loudest voices or those with the most privilege. So I think our work is really to focus on making sure that we're reaching those families who are not included in that group. So I think the goals that Ms. Jackson mentioned, particularly around engaging Native American English learners, families of students with disabilities, and families from economically disadvantaged backgrounds is critically important. I think we need to do it through multiple venues and multiple formats, including in-person surveys, through partnerships, through forums, through town halls, and in multiple languages.
Thank you very much. Brian, do you need to repeat?
I do not.
Okay.
Again, I would heavily lean on my experience as a special education teacher and advocating for students with disabilities and students in all of the student groups covered by the Yazzie Martinez case. One of the topics of conversation at Monday's policy committee meeting was regarding tribal consultation, and I would like to focus the rest of my response on tribal consultation. As an APS employee, I had the privilege of attending one of the tribal consultations, and there was too much talking by APS and too little listening to the tribes. If I am lucky enough to be elected to the board, I would help to ensure that we would listen to the leaders of the 23 tribal nations represented here in New Mexico.
Thank you very much. Last for question number 4, Mr. Martinez.
Yes, thank you. As mentioned, I definitely would rely on my community relationships that I have. Community forums are good, parent forums are good. However, I've been to these forums. There's very few parental involvement in these forums. So we have to find new and different ways of communicating with parents, whether that be through social medias or sporting events, wherever we can find these parents, get them involved, get them engaged so that we can hear their voices. I like the idea of going to them, but we need to go to them where they're at, and they're not at community forums, I'm sorry to say, but thank you.
Thank you very much, candidates, for your responses to question number 4. Courtney Jackson, you will begin our 5th question. You ready?
Yes.
All right, this is for 1 minute. 1 minute timekeepers. How can the school board adapt their focus and priorities to the current needs of our community while remaining goal-oriented?
Okay. So I think this is a great question because it really focuses us in on the work of the board right now. We have gone out to the community when we set the goals and the guardrails and spoke to thousands of people across the community to ask them what they wanted us to focus on as we moved forward with goals. And so whether we were in the Northeast Heights or the South Valley, no matter where we were in Albuquerque, it unanimously came back that the community of Albuquerque wanted us to focus on the 4 goals that we have. That is a very powerful testament to the work that we are doing, because it means that the goals and the work that we're doing is focused on what the community is asking us to focus on. So I just think when we can continue to keep our focus on what is right for students, get our community engagement, continue to listen to those voices, but definitely go out to the community.
Thank you very much, Courtney. Kristen, same question.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. How can the school board adapt their focus and priorities to the current needs of our community while remaining goal-oriented?
Thank you. I think it's important that the board's work is community-driven and that we have community-driven solutions. And the Yazzie Martinez ruling really underscores not only how New Mexico schools have been failing students of color, particularly Native students and Hispanic students, but also students with disabilities, students from low-income backgrounds. And we need to also think about how that means they're being excluded from the planning process, these same communities. And we do need to have government-to-government tribal consultations. I've been very privileged to represent New Mexico as in one of those as the Violence Against Women Act grant administrator. And so we need to be doing that. And Sandia Pueblo is part of our district, District 7 in the Northeast Heights. So we need to make sure we're including those voices and specifically listening to what these groups need and what their solutions are.
Thank you very much, Kristen. Mr. Flores, do you need a repeat?
No.
Okay, 1 minute.
I believe one of the best ways we do this is something that I have talked about for a while now, is an allocated funding model to make sure that we're diverting resources over to our most vulnerable students and our most vulnerable populations. And the only way we really focus on this is being within those communities, like the rest of us had prefaced, and making sure that we're actually doing the work that is important to these students and these families. When we look at our Martinez Yazzie students, we see that not only have they been let down, but they've been let down repeatedly. It's important to remember during this process that our students aren't failing us, we're failing our students, and it's important that we focus on those vulnerable populations within this process.
Thank you very much, Isaac. Danielle, same question.
Yes, thank you. I think that we can adapt to community demand while remaining true to the goals by remembering what the community told us matters most. What the community told us matters most is, are our students learning? Are our students able to read? Are our students able to do math? Are our students ready for success in life, whatever that may bring after post-secondary readiness? And do our kids have the skills, habits, and mindsets for life success? That is what our community, our parents, and our students told us what matters. And so I think we need to continue the course on those goals and guardrails. I think as a board, we also need to remember to stay out of the way of the superintendent and the district to enable them to respond directly to the school level, to concerns and to other issues. And remembering that we also have our guardrails, which are focused on safety, belonging, equity, teacher voice, and equitable allocation of resources. And I think the other thing that we can really do would be to foster partnerships to make sure that we're working with our local foundations and business communities.
Thank you very much. Brian, 1 minute.
The goals and guardrails represent the vision and the values respectively of our community. Not only are we lucky to have a strategic plan in place with goals and guardrails, but goals 1 and 2 specifically focus on the needs of the Yazzie Martinez student groups and African-American students, which is incredibly important. The Yazzie Martinez case was against the state of New Mexico, not against APS. However, as the largest school district in New Mexico, in the state, there is no way that the state is going to improve outcomes without APS. With that being said, the idea that our goal is to improve performance by only 10 percentage points over a 5-year period is completely unacceptable. And if I am elected to the board, I will advocate for increasing those goals so we can meet the needs of historically underserved student groups. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. Joshua, same question.
Please repeat the question.
How can the school board adapt their focus and priorities to the current needs of our community while remaining goal-oriented?
Thank you. Yes, I definitely believe we need to go to our communities. Again, it's been said, but we need to listen to our communities, but we need to understand our communities. We need to understand what the needs of our communities are, whether that be specific languages or specific barriers that need to be looked at. We need to understand all those things. I also believe partnerships within the community, whether it be with the trades, whether it be with businesses, whether it be with foundations, any of these to help kind of facilitate this progress and again, making sure that all of this is centered around our student outcomes.
Thank you, Joshua. Warigia, do you need a repeat?
No, I think
No? Okay, 1 minute.
So I like the idea of looking at low performing schools and focusing resources on them. We know that overall our graduation rate is going up on average, but we also know that there are schools and areas that are underperforming. I also think it's important to emphasize the guardrails of staff voice and support and making sure the school provides adequate resources. The teachers are on the front line every day, and I want to make sure that they can tell us what they think is going well, but also that they have time to do work, that they have extra clerks and extra teachers' aides so they're not buried in paperwork, and then being precise about ways to make sure that teachers get the resources they think is adequate for that community.
Thank you very much, candidates. That concludes question number 5. We are moving on to question number 6, and this is for Kristen. So Kristen, are you ready? All right, timekeepers, we are at 1 minute. Are you ready? All right, here we go. What factors can impact students' test scores and board goal progress monitoring data apart from their actual skills and knowledge?
One, I think it's important to understand the neuroscience behind how students learn and how children's brains develop. As someone who has worked in trauma for nearly 2 decades, I understand when the prefrontal cortex is shut off because you're in fight or flight, you're experiencing stress at home, or you're scared because our schools feel unsafe, you can't learn. That's the part of the brain where you process information. It's also the part of the brain that regulates your behavior so you can make good decisions. And we know that students of color are disproportionately punished for having trauma reactions. So when we need to make sure students feel safe, we've had a record number of guns found on campus. More than twice as many guns have been found in the last 4 years than the previous 4 years before the COVID shutdowns, more than 60. And APS has been pouring millions of dollars into Band-Aid solutions.
Thank you very much, Kristen. Mr. Flores, do you need a repeat? Okay, 1 minute.
So I believe one of the most important factors that is affecting students is what was mentioned previously, the very real gun problem that we're seeing in our communities. How is a child supposed to be a good test taker or do well in school when, for one, their parents are scared to send them to school or they're scared to sit in the classroom? We have sat along for far too long and done very little about this very real problem. And unless we address these issues and get in front of it, we are going to have a tragedy like we've seen in other states. We need to be proactive and to get in front of this and make sure that these students feel safe at school, because without these students, we don't have a future. This needs to be taken extremely seriously. And as your board member, I can assure you that this is something that would be at the top of my priority list.
Thank you very much, Isaac. Danielle.
Thank you. So the question was around what factors influence how or how much students learn. And I want to first and foremost say that I think we need to have high expectations for all students and acknowledge that all students can learn and can learn at high levels. We do know that school culture and school climate play an important factor. And so I think we need to focus on those as well, making sure that we're fostering a sense of belonging, a sense of inclusivity, and making sure that kids feel safe, welcome, supported, and challenged in our classrooms. I think we need to value home language and culture. And I think we really need to focus on building partnerships with our city, with the community, and partners, because some of the challenges that we're facing in this community are not being faced by the schools alone or because of the schools alone. And so I think we need to make sure that we are providing safe passages for our kids, making sure that we're providing after and before school programming, making sure that we're providing enrichment opportunities, making sure that all of our activities, including out of school and summertime, are engaging and also challenging. And I think we need to be very clear, again, that we cannot accept poverty as an excuse.
Thank you, Danielle. Brian, 1 minute.
Building off of that, I very much appreciate what your very last comment, that our community struggles with poverty. That is not an issue that APS can solve on its own. That is something that we need to partner with in terms of our community partners or statewide partners, because poverty is a challenge for many of our students and our families. The reason why this is actually a challenging question to answer is because there are many factors potentially affecting student performance outside of schools. But the bottom line is that as a teacher, I had my students 5 days a week for 57 minutes. School was a safe space. Students were at school for 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. That is such a large amount of time where, as educators and other adults in the building, we can have such an impact during that time. And we just need to be very careful about potentially having lower expectations for students because of things that are happening outside of school.
Thank you very much. Mr. Martinez.
Yes. So as a parent, there's several things that I look for, in my children's teachers and them to be successful. One is grade appropriate lessons, lessons that are being taught by the teachers. Also, student engagement, how my son and my daughter are interacting within the classroom. Are they having fun in the classroom? Do they want to go to school? That is very important. And that's all done by a great teacher, a teacher who's trained, who is prepared every day to teach our students. And most importantly, I think, again, a teacher in a school, in a district who believes in our students. So believes that they can achieve anything that they want to do and that they can be anything that they want to be. Those things, I think, are crucial to the success of our students.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Marigia.
Oh, could you read the question one more time?
Yes, I can. What factors can impact students' test scores and board goal progress monitoring data apart from their actual skills and knowledge?
Okay, that's a great question. I want to focus on teaching styles, student learning styles, and outcome measurements. As noted, we cannot affect the outside environment, but we can really affect the environment in the classroom. We need to move away from a sage on the stage teaching style where teachers are just talking at the students and do more project-based, outdoor education, hands-on learning. Also, different students have different learning styles, kinetic. Some students are visual, some listen, and teachers should be sensitive to that. And in terms of outcome measurements, I don't like the relentless focus on standardized testing. We need to find other ways to measure students' abilities and move away from this never-ending statistical assessment. And I want more than one assessment in terms of figuring out what kids know.
Thank you very much. Courtney, you have the last response.
Awesome, thank you. So I believe that student success is more than test scores. I do believe that our proficiency rates are very important. They're very crucial because they set the tone for our students to be able to move forward. But we also have to ensure that every child, regardless of their background, does have the skills, habits, mindsets, and confidence that they need to thrive academically and personally. The way that we can do that is by creating safe and welcoming schools. We need to continue an ongoing process of engaging our families. We need to build on a strong student and teacher relationship. We need to continue our work on attendance. Sorry, I got distracted. We have to make sure that we have effective special education supports and that the basic needs of our students are met. We are doing this through our guardrails by ensuring that we continue to have wraparound supports, high quality instruction, strong leadership, and community engagement.
Thank you very much, Courtney. And thank you everybody for your responses for question number 6. Just as a reminder to our audience, if you can silence your phones, thank you very much. But at the same time, hold on, I want to. Thank you very much to our ASL interpreters. All right, we are moving on to number 6. Everybody take a deep breath. Stretch out in your chairs a little bit. All right, Isaac Flores, you are the first one to take on question number 7. This will be for 1 minute time candidates and timekeepers. Mr. Flores, you ready? What is your stance on community members / parents challenging books that involve diversity or LGBTQ plus characters based on their moral or religious beliefs?
I am a strong believer that representation matters. As a member of the LGBTQ community myself, I understand how important that representation is. And it is important that when every child goes to school, that they see themselves in what is being taught. So it is important that we stand up against this rhetoric that is not rooted in fact, but is rather rooted in propaganda and one-sided viewpoints. We need to make sure that every student that goes into a classroom knows that they are safe there, that they are welcome, and that they are part of a community that accepts and embraces them. There is no room for that type of rhetoric within education. Public schools are there to educate and inform our students, not to push any type of bias that some affiliates may have.
Thank you very much, Isaac. Danielle.
Thank you. I would start by saying first and foremost that I'm unequivocally opposed to any sort of book ban or curriculum ban. I do think APS has a strong policy already on handling controversial topics or speakers and handling how parents might make challenges to books. I think all students deserve access to robust content, to multiple and diverse points of view from a variety of different sources. I also think that our librarians are experts and they know what they're doing. And the folks who are selecting our books are experts and they know what they're doing. And I think we all know that the best way to foster a love of reading is to be able to provide choice. So providing choice and flexibility so that our students can choose what they want to read with support, again, from librarians, educators, and parents. I think we also need to engage families in the process so that they do understand the content that is in our libraries, that is in our schools, and how it is selected and how important it is for students to be exposed to diverse perspectives.
Thank you, Danielle. Brian.
I am not banning books, period. Additionally, I expose myself to ideas that I don't necessarily agree with all the time. I'm an avid reader and I read things all the time that make me want to throw the book across the room. However, I stick with it and I finish the book because I might learn something or I might have a new perspective on a particular topic. And as a white male from Delaware, I don't just want to read books about white males from Delaware. It's also important for any student, this idea of windows and mirrors when it comes to our books. We definitely need to make sure that the books represent the diverse student population we have throughout the city of Albuquerque, but also expose people to people and cultures and ideas that might be very different from the environment in which we were raised.
Thank you, Brian. Joshua.
Yes, thank you. APS does have a strong policy in place. I will bring attention to parents. I think parents have the obligation to understand and know what their children are reading, what their children are doing in and outside of the classrooms. Again, I'm very involved in my child's educational process, and I would say that parents need to be involved in their children's educational journey and what they are doing in and outside of the classroom.
Thank you, Joshua. Origia.
Could you repeat the question one more time?
Yes, I can. What is your stance on community members and parents challenging books that involve diversity or LGBTQ plus characters based on their moral or religious beliefs? 1 minute.
Thank you. This is a real problem because states near us, including Texas and Oklahoma, are experiencing this right now. And if you look at the lists of banned books, they often want to get rid of not just LGBTQ or stories about African Americans, Native Americans. They also really get rid of classics like To Kill a Mockingbird, The Great Gatsby, 1984. Why don't we want our children to think? But also this as someone who grew up in a small town, books were a way to escape, to transport myself to another world. But having diverse views also is a way of preventing bullying. We can use these diverse views to create support for marginalized groups. And I think that, and also knowledge among people who don't have it.
Thank you, Origia. Courtney, same question.
Thank you. So, as a parent myself, I understand that families want to be deeply involved in their child's education. APS has a parents' rights and responsibilities policy that affirms a parent's right to access information and make decisions for their own children. That means if a parent has concerns about a particular book, they have avenues to request alternatives for their child. The board's role is not to decide what is right for each family. That responsibility belongs to the parents. Families know their children best, and they should have the ability to choose what works for them, whether or not the board or I personally agree. The job of the board is to ensure that every option is safe and meets educational standards so that parents can make informed decisions that are best for their children.
Thank you, Courtney. Kristen, last response.
You. New Mexico is 50th in education. We should not be further limiting access to educational resources. And it's important that every child feels safe and included in the classroom. And yes, that includes LGBTQ students, but it also goes for students of color and students with disabilities. They deserve to see themselves in the curriculum and see their families too. It was only a couple of years ago, we had an APS teacher cut off the braid of a Native American student without his consent. We need to be expanding what we're exposed to so we can do better. We are in a highly politicized environment, underscored by the tragedies of today. And we have lost the ability as a society to converse with people we disagree with. It's important that our kids develop this skill, and that will have ripple effects out into our community.
All right, that concludes question number 7. Thank you very much, candidates, and thank you very much, everybody, for your attention. Those people on YouTube as well. Moving on, we're rolling along, so thank you very much for tuning in with us. So Danielle Gonzalez, this question is for you, number 8. This is for 1 minute timekeepers and candidates. Question number 8. How can APS and the board retain qualified special education teachers?
Great. Thank you. I think the primary thing that APS could do to retain qualified special education teachers would be to maintain our what's called the SET program, the Special Education Teacher Training Program, which is a partnership between the district and the union. It provides a path to licensure for anyone who has a bachelor's degree to become a licensed special education teacher, and it allows them to do that while earning a salary and benefits. I think this is a model of a type of residency that we know works from research. And so I would say that we also need to increase and expand other residencies to support all of our educators. I think an important thing that we can also do to retain and support our special education teachers is to support our general education teachers. And so I think we really need to focus on tier 1 instruction and our multiple layers of student success. I think we need to make sure that we are providing good instruction. I think we need to make sure that educators know how to identify students with disabilities and best serve them.
Thank you very much, Danielle. Brian.
First, I would like to personally thank whoever asked this question. It is very personal to me as a former special education teacher. And board member Gonzalez mentioned the SET program. I am a proud graduate of the first cohort of the SET program, and I am very proud of that. However, after 4 years, I was poached by the district office, and I don't regret that. However, at the same time, I am an excellent educator. And I often think about what would get me back into the classroom, what would have kept me in the classroom. And for me personally, it was time. Serving as a special education teacher in this district is 2 full-time jobs. It is being the instructor of record and being a case manager as well. I give 100% to everything that I do, especially when it comes to my students. And like other educators, what that meant was staying late at school and then going home and working from my kitchen table. The model has to change in APS.
Thank you, Brian. Mr. Martinez, same question.
Yes, thank you. I think programs like those are definitely things that we need to continue to do and expand on. Licensure programs, things like that is exceptionally important to retain not only special ed teachers, but also general ed teachers as well. I do appreciate the state's investment that they've given in increasing teachers' salaries. I think that is definitely a step in the right direction. But on a district level, I also think that APS needs to make our district, our classrooms, a great place to work. We need to listen to our teachers. We need to make sure that they feel appreciated and heard, and do everything we can to ensure that they aren't working after hours on the kitchen table. Do whatever we can to allow them the opportunities to do the best job they can with the resources that they have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Warigia.
Thank you. So according to Richard Ingersoll from the University of Pennsylvania, the #1 reason that people leave teaching, no matter what the subject, are the working conditions. We do have a physical plant problem in APS. A simple thing we can do is make sure every school has adequate heating and air conditioning. It costs money, but it makes a better learning and teaching environment. Also, teachers of all kinds want respect. They want to be treated well by the principal and be treated like a professional. As we've heard, there's a heavy workload among APS teachers. So we want to make sure that we have adequate staff like student aides, like clerks to help with paperwork, and also that we reduce duplicate assessments between the state and APS. And finally, I advocate for more behavioral health counselors in the school to prevent bullying and take some of the emotional workload off the shoulders of teachers.
Thank you, Warigia. Courtney.
Will you repeat the question?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
How can APS and the board retain qualified special education teachers? 1 minute.
Okay, so I believe that teacher retention starts when we have a district where educators feel supported, inspired, and part of something meaningful. Teachers want to work in a system where there's a clear plan, strong goals, and a compelling vision. One where they feel like their work directly impacts student outcomes and that they feel valued in that process. I believe that's one reason the district, especially over the past year, has taken the time to evaluate the special education department and has used both outside and inside assessments to find to determine that what we really need is some more professional development for our staff at all levels. And we need to have more deliberate and well-documented individual education plans that clearly outline the support and resources that each of those students need. I believe if we can do that, that we will ultimately improve our teacher retention, but we also need to listen to our educators and understand why they are leaving in the first place.
Thank you, Courtney. Kristen, same question.
Thank you. As a mom of a student who receives special education services, I have talked with a lot of special education teachers, and I want to include the special education service providers like social workers and speech and language pathologists in this as well. And thank you for all that you do. First, when I hear from them, they say their caseload is so overwhelming. And it's actually traumatic because they feel like they can't do a good job. They're not able to provide decent services and quality education when they have too many kids in the classroom, particularly if they have high needs. And then they go into IEP meetings, and then there's still not enough services. And so many teachers and service providers have told me that they are discouraged from saying the truth in IEP meetings if a student's needs aren't quite high enough. They feel a student needs support, but the caseload is too high. So we need to prioritize these services in the budget.
Thank you very much, Kristen. Isaac, you are the last person for number 8.
So first and foremost, our teachers are the backbone of education in our communities. We need to make sure that they're well compensated and that they're supported. And the only way that we really do that is by making sure that these programs are well funded. For example, there is 202 schools in APS, and we only have 3 special education centers. So making sure that we're allocating the resources over so that these teachers can actually do their jobs, to make sure that they feel supported within the classroom and that they know that they don't stand alone in this and that it is a community engagement. And overall, APS needs to do a better job of this. We don't have an education without our teachers, and it's super important that we make them a primary focus so that we can keep that retention.
All right, that concludes question number 8. Thank you, candidates, for your responses. Thank you too very much for that switch. I saw that. It's a good job. All right, moving along to question number 9. If you need to take a couple deep breaths, please do that as well. Stretch out. So the first response will go to Brian. All right, this is question number 9. And this will be for 1 minute. 1 minute. What are you doing? What are you doing or plan to do to make our schools safer for students? Let me repeat that one more time. What are you doing or plan to do to make our students safer for students? 1 minute.
For too long, the district has been relying on a system of if you see something, say something. And I don't need to remind anybody in the room of recent events here at APS where guns were found in high schools and near high schools. And thankfully, someone did see something and say something. The challenge with that approach is it allows the weapons into the building. And as an educator, I was in the classroom going through Alice drills with my students and having to answer some pretty hard questions. Mr. Laurent, what are we going to do if someone gets into the room? So I appreciate that APS is now expanding the conversation to include possibly clear backpacks or metal detectors or other detection devices. And it is time to have that conversation. We also need to have a broader community-wide conversation about the root cause of why weapons are ending up in the hands of youth to begin with.
Thank you, Brian. Joshua, same question.
Yes, as a father, this is something I think about every day. Last year there was a gun brought to my son's school, which is a K through 8th school. So it's clear we have a problem in our community with too many guns being on campus. I've actually been endorsed by Sheriff John Allen, and we've had many conversations around this issue. As he goes around the country, there's lots of resources and technologies that are available for school districts to utilize to prevent guns from being on campus. Now, these are tough decisions that we need to make, but we have to do whatever it takes to keep our students safe. And I will definitely look into all options if given the opportunity to be elected for this board.
Thank you, Joshua. Warigia, 1 minute.
So there are no easy answers to this question. There are no easy technological fixes. I think we should focus on prevention at the front end, but I also want to talk about some things that may not work, that sound great, but may not work. So I've had a great experience with the academic counselor at my school. Nonetheless, I think that having more behavioral and mental health staff at schools in APS would serve several positive roles, including making our schools safer. We've had about 20 gun incidents in APS in the past 2 years. Now, we know that one incident is too much, but 20 is a number which allows us to talk to and work with every involved child and find out exactly what happened so that we can create a prevention strategy. Also, we've had great success with veteran and drug diversion courts, and I'd like to see a diversion program for these young people.
Thank you very much. Courtney, 1 minute.
Thank you. Student safety is the #1 priority of every single parent within Albuquerque Public Schools and quite frankly, any school. And it requires both strong school-based measures and community collaboration. One thing I have done that we're continuing to do is I've championed an initiative that brings together the DA, APS, APD, the sheriff, the DOJ, and the FBI to continue discussions with our students about violence intervention, and they're bringing that directly into the classrooms. I think this helps our students to understand the risk and to also engage in solutions alongside law enforcement and community leaders. Just as an aside and based on the events of today, I think we also need to continue conversations with our kids and our community that you cannot resort to violence when you disagree. I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Courtney. Kristen, 1 minute.
Thank you. I'm a child safety expert. I've worked in this in nearly 2 decades. I used to coordinate a human trafficking coalition where I worked with law enforcement, prosecutors, and victim service providers, all bringing very different perspectives of how they would address this issue. And I'm someone who, if I disagree with you on 99% of things, I will find the 1% we can agree on. And that's what the school board needs to do because our kids need to be safe. Student safety is an escalating problem. 6 guns have been recovered by APS so far in the first 15 days of school. That would put us on track for 70 guns this year. Last year, 1/3 of the gun incidents were in the Northeast Heights. This is a citywide problem. We need to improve early intervention and early identification services and training in our schools. We need to make sure disciplinary policies are being followed and that administrators are trained on them. So teachers and administrators know where they can send students for support.
Thank you, Kristen. Mr. Flores, 1 minute.
So I understand this issue because not that long ago, I sat in APS as that student and had to sit through these drills. I think it's important that APS needs to be proactive and make sure that we get ahead of this. We need to make sure that we're offering more mental health services. We need to make sure that we're looking to see that every school has one point of entry, that we look into low-profile metal detectors, clear backpacks, and to make sure that we're investing in early threat detection systems. And also, we need to make sure that we're working in collaboration with our local legislators to make sure that we're creating and collaborating on policy that'll have a long-lasting impact, not just on APS, but on our state. And I know this personally, how this impacts families, because I work in these juvenile detention centers and I teach violence prevention. So I understand the very real threat and what it does to our communities.
Thank you, Isaac. Danielle, you have the last response.
Great, thank you. As a mom, I did receive that text last year from my daughter at Valley that a gun had been found, and it is terrifying. And so this is a critically important issue that I do take and feel very personally about. I do think we need a multi-layered approach to this problem, which includes both proactive, reactive, and responsive solutions. And I think that's a balance of both hardware and what I'll call humanware. On the hardware side, we're going to have, as we already have, fencing cameras, alert badges, security vestibules, talking about clear backpacks, and maybe even metal detectors, which I think we have to be open to as a school district. On the humanware side, we need to make sure that social emotional learning is fully integrated with academics, that we're providing supports for mental health, that we are taking bullying every single instance very seriously, and that we are addressing that and supporting our kids when they're having challenges at school and at home.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for your responses. That is question number 9. You guys doing okay? Wake up. No. Good. Well, we're very happy you made a wonderful choice to be with us today. And if you're watching on YouTube, same goes out to you. So we are moving on to question number 10. Joshua Martinez, this is to you. Have your active listening ears. This is a 2-part question. I'll take my time reading it. And if you need if you need for me to respond to it or to ask again, let me know. All right, number 10. Early literacy is foundational to long-term academic success. What specific actions will you advocate for to ensure all students are reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade? And how will you strengthen the APS strategic plan to make early literacy a measurable, well-funded, and accountable priority?
Thank you.
1 minute.
Thank you so much. Well, I think what our state has just done recently, where early childhood education is free for everyone in the state, is a big step in the right direction. Obviously, we're the first state in the nation to be able to do this. I think that's going to be a game changer for us and for our students moving forward. Second part of the question, I do agree that with our goals as far as creating more aggressive goals for our students. I think also going back to parent involvement, family involvement, also partnering with the community, partnering with families, the schools, everyone, this partnership, it takes all of us to increase these student outcomes, but we can do it.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Warigia, same question.
Could you tell me the question again?
Yes, I can. Early literacy is foundational to long-term academic success. What specific actions will you advocate for to ensure all students are reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade? And how will you strengthen the APS strategic plan to make early literacy a measurable, well-funded, and accountable priority?
Well, I think this question goes back in many ways to the Yazzie Martinez decision. I really am excited about the new pre-K, but Yazzie Martinez also recommends small class sizes and culturally and linguistically relevant education. I also think that a lot of reading in the classroom, and if we have English language learners or native students, culturally relevant topics, books they can relate to, even bringing in people from the community who can make them feel safe. I also want to say that, you know, when we have those small class sizes, teachers can pay a lot more attention to each individual student, and also students can help each other read.
Thank you very much, Warigia. Courtney, 1 minute.
Okay. Just so I am aware, advocate for all students reading on grade level and strengthen the plan to make it a priority. Is that correct? Okay. Okay, so I think that hopefully it's very obvious that I advocate for our goals every single time I'm on the dais or I am out having conversations with our community. I think that our goals, especially goal number 1, early literacy, are very powerful and have set the district on a path towards real student success. The way that I believe that we can advocate to strengthen the plan to continue to make it a priority is we can continue our investments in the letters training, the training that our teachers are receiving, and continue the district-wide focus on structured literacy, because I believe those are making a real difference in our classroom. We need to make sure that we are adhering to Guardrail 3 that has a focus on high quality grade level instruction. And that is the best way for us to move forward with goal 1.
Thank you, Courtney. Kristen, same question.
Can you repeat it, please?
Yes, I can. Early literacy is foundational to long-term academic success. What specific actions will you advocate for to ensure all students are reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade? And how will you strengthen the APS strategic plan to make early literacy a measurable, well-funded, and accountable priority?
Thank you. So first, we need to look at what the current problem is. The achievement gap is growing at APS for our Yazzie Martinez students, especially when you compare the current test scores to pre-COVID test scores. If we compare them to the lowest point when kids weren't even in school, then I certainly hope after 4 years we would see a little improvement. And some student populations are still headed in the wrong direction. For example, Asian student scores dropped by about 10%. And we need to ensure that literacy curriculum and teacher training makes students from all backgrounds feel respected and are effective for different populations, because we need to consider the whole child and make sure teachers and classrooms have the resources to support different populations.
Thank you, Kristen. Isaac.
I think it's super important what was just pointed out. Currently, we're seeing that part of our Martinez Yazzie population, our Native American students, are actually doing worse. They're not getting better or just plateaued like some of our other students. It's important that we start to invest in more diverse education models and partnering with our parents and communities, and to really focus on that allocated funding model, because equity and equality are not the same thing, and not all of our students start at the same place. So we need to make sure that we're meeting these students where they are so that we can make a real meaningful impact in their education.
Thank you, Isaac. Danielle.
Great, thank you. So specific strategies that I would advocate for to ensure that all kids are reading at grade level by 3rd grade are culturally and linguistically responsive approaches to education, maintaining the focus on science of reading, making sure that we're providing early interventions and early supports, including screenings in partnership with our early learning providers, and making sure that we're aligning everything, including our budget, to this goal. And that may mean some tough choices, but making sure that we're approving high quality instructional materials, that we're using high quality professional development that's aligned to the latest research and proven strategies, and that we're improving our partnerships with institutes of higher ed as well, to make sure that teachers, as they exit their teacher preparation program, are prepared to teach students with culturally and linguistically responsive approaches and with the science of reading. I think the first 2 components of the strategic plan, which you mentioned, are actually clear expectations and rigorous instruction. And so I think we need to maintain that focus in the strategic plan and make sure that we are providing the superintendent and her team with the supports to be able to do that, and making sure that we're asking for regular data to evaluate.
Thank you, Danielle. Brian, last response to question number 10.
All teachers are reading teachers. I was a middle school teacher, so I did not personally benefit from letters training. However, once I moved to the district office, I did complete letters for administrators. APS needs to continue to invest in the science of reading and making sure that we are expanding professional learning opportunities to all educators, because we know what the achievement gaps look like, and they're not limited to elementary school. On that note, I've already talked about the need to increase the goals, and in this case, goal 1. One of the challenges from my perspective is that goal 1 has been framed as the elementary goal, and goal 2 has been framed as the middle school goal. We do not stop teaching reading in 3rd grade, and we certainly don't start teaching math in middle school. So something that the current Board of Education and the current administration can immediately take steps toward is eliminating that particular distinction and involving elementary staff members in a math conversation and middle school staff members in the reading conversation.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you very much, everybody, for response. That is question number 10. Good job. You're rolling along. All right. So we're getting close to time, so we're going to try to get through this really quick. Well, not your responses, but so just try. This next question is number 11 for 1 minute. And Warigia, it is your turn to go first. How should APS balance academic rigor while supporting the whole child? 1 minute.
I think this goes back to the assessment issue. I think we need to find different ways to determine what kids actually know. So I am uncomfortable with this very surface testing that we do. And also we have like a lot of technology involved with it. I want to focus on deeper learning for our kids. And I definitely want to make sure that our kids are engaged with techniques like outdoor education, community involved education, where we can have parents or community members with expertise leading science, reading, and math. And in terms of the whole child, these are making sure that we have that community and parent involved connection will make learning more effective.
Thank you very much. Courtney, 1 minute.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, I can. How should APS balance academic rigor while supporting the whole child?
Okay. So I believe that APS has a responsibility to ensure that every student has access to the resources and support that they need. And so one way that we can do both while balancing rigor and supporting the whole child is to honor our guardrails. The guardrails are there for a reason. We need to provide high quality, standards aligned instruction that is also culturally and linguistically relevant. That's guardrail 3. We need to ensure that there's equitable access to wraparound services and support systems, which is guardrail 1. And we need to maintain our strong family and community engagement, which is guardrail 4. I think if we can continue to focus on those specific guardrails, while also holding ourselves accountable and monitoring towards our towards our goals, I think that we can honor the rigor that is expected so that our children actually receive an education while they're here, but also making sure that they're supported and taken care of while they're under our care.
Thank you, Courtney. Kristen.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, I can. How should APS balance academic rigor while supporting the whole child?
Thank you. I have a lot to say on this one as a former teacher. I love this question. And the kids are the best part of APS. And so first I want to say, I don't think that those two concepts are at odds with each other. The whole child and providing academic rigor. Kids are more than test scores, but we should have high expectations for every child, and then it is up to APS to meet that challenge. We need developmentally appropriate curriculum that incorporates interaction and the development of social skills, which have been severely impacted during COVID and the shutdowns. We need to move away from this cookie cutter curriculum that runs on Chromebooks. We know how screen time impacts child brain development, and these curricula are placing corporate interests over the needs of our children.
Thank you, Kristen. Isaac.
So I'm a strong believer that this cannot be a one-size-fits-all approach. We need to focus on individual students and their strengths and make sure that we're fostering success with these students. You know, children are not numbers on a spreadsheet, and the fact that education is taking a corporate approach to how we look after our children and rate them, we need to start looking into testing models that are more well-rounded and focused on all students and not just the status quo so that we can give money to people that create these tests.
Thank you, Isaac. Danielle.
Thank you. I think this question around academic rigor versus the whole child is a false construct. And I don't think it's fair to our students or our community to imply that we can't do both, because we can. I think our kids deserve both. We know how learning happens. We know that social emotional development and academic development are fully integrated. And so kids need safe and supportive learning environments. They also need social emotional skills and cognitive development that meets them where they're at and brings them to where they need to be. So that means we need to continue enrichment activities like Genius Hour, our community schools, electives, activities, art, music in all of our elementary schools. We need to continue our focus on skills, habits, and mindsets and relatives and cognitive development. And we need to continue to measure with multiple different metrics that includes both measuring academics as well as measuring our school climate and culture and those school, as well as school climate. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Brian.
I am pleased that in the district strategic plan, we have a goal devoted to quote unquote the whole child, goal 4, where we want our students to leave the district with the skills, habits, and mindsets necessary to succeed in whatever path that they choose after they leave APS. This is the reason why I'm running. I've had so many choices and opportunities throughout my life, and I attribute them completely to the excellent education I received. And every single student deserves the same education, the quality of education that I received. In terms of the whole child, I would, from personal experience, I would like to see the district and the board have a conversation about advisory periods, where I felt when I was a classroom teacher, I did not receive very much support. And we are not going to meet goal 4 without educators building those relationships with students. And it's best done not just in an academic environment, but in advisory as well.
Thank you, Brian. Mr. Martinez, you have the last response to question number 11.
Thank you. Yes, I believe we have to have high expectations for our students. We also need to provide the support system for our students to deal with everyday life or the traumas that they're dealing with in their personal lives. These can be through APS and in partnership with other community resources that are available. I also believe that our teachers need to have strong relationships with our students. They need to know what's going on at their home, in their homes, and you know how our students are learning. How do they learn? How do they best learn? And also another thing I think is important is promoting the arts, promoting sports and activities, extracurricular activities, so that our students have, you know, something to look forward to, some fun activities that they can do other than academics.
Awesome. Thank you very much, everybody, for your responses. That concludes question number 11. Looking at the time, we want to be mindful of your time, the audience's time. So we're going to move on to our last question. This will be for 45 seconds, and then we'll move on to some closing statements by our candidates. And there will be for 30 seconds closing statements. So just a heads up on the agenda. So moving on to the last question. And we'll start, who left off last time? We'll start with Courtney Jackson. You'll be the first one for this 45-second question. Why do you want to be a school board member, and what strengths do you bring? Why do you want to be a school board member, and what strengths do you bring? 45 seconds.
I want to be a school board member because I have absolutely loved the work that I have been able to do over the past 3.5 years. When I ran the first time, I ran on a platform of reform, of making sure that the school system was working for our students first. And I firmly believe that we as a board have been able to do that. We have been able to shift the trajectory so that the focus remains on our students first. And it has honestly been the honor of my lifetime to be able to do that. The strengths that I bring is that I am a rounded member of this community, especially the community that I grew up in, and I know what my constituents are looking for.
Thank you very much, Courtney. Kristen, same question, 45 seconds.
You. I'm running for school board because every child deserves to have an advocate at APS. My leadership style is building consensus, not division. I've managed millions of dollars to support programs throughout our state, and I knew where every dollar went and how every dollar was connected to outcomes. Student safety, community engagement, Yazzie Martinez, and improving student outcomes. They demand more than words. They demand action. And I have the technical skills and professional experience and the personal experience as a mom who's had to be a relentless advocate to take those actions and get results.
Thank you very much, Kristen. Isaac.
So the reason why I want to be a school board member is because I have based my whole life and my career in public service and helping my community. I'm a strong believer that if you see a problem, you don't just sit back and wait for someone else to fix it. You charge the issue and you get into the fight yourself. And that's a value that's super important to myself and to the work I do. I work in broken systems every day, so I understand the real grit and the leadership that it takes to fix very real problems. And I'm running because I know that what I can bring to the board is a perspective we currently don't have.
Thank you very much, Isaac. Danielle.
Yes, thank you. I have dedicated my life to work in education, starting as a classroom teacher, then working in education policy, all with the focus on education equity. I know that there are proven strategies that work, and we can bring those strategies to our school district to help our kids. I believe that all of our students can learn, and I want to bring that to the district. That's why I'm running. The strengths that I have, I'm a mom, as I mentioned, I've got all of my kids in our schools right now, so I bring that perspective. I have a career in education policy and educational equity, and I have already demonstrated that I can bring change, reform, improvement, and strategy to this school district. I want to continue that work so that we continue to improve student outcomes for all of our district.
Thank you, Danielle. Brian.
I am running to serve on the school board because I am interested in systems change. Every single year, many students leave APS prepared for whatever they would like to do once they graduate with their diploma. A lot of students do, but not all students. And that is primarily why I am running. I mentioned in my last response, I want every single student to have the same opportunities that I have been blessed to have. My strengths, I hope it is coming across this evening. One of my strengths is my communication skills and being able to communicate technical concepts to a broad audience. And I do think that that is the gap on the board at the moment. If elected, I will be able to ask the appropriate technical questions to make sure we're meeting the needs of every single student.
Thank you very much, Brian. Joshua.
Yes, thank you. I'm running for the board because education and community are my two passions. And so this is a great opportunity to bring the two together. I want a quality education, not only for my children, but for all children across our district. Some of the strengths, I am a father, so I do bring that perspective of understanding what parents are going through as far as homework, testing, all the ins and outs of everyday children in education, and also my community involvement. I've been very involved in my community. I want to serve people, and I want to make our district and our city better.
All right. Thank you very much, Joshua. Last but not least, Warigia.
I want to be a school board member for APS because I attended K through 12 in New Mexico, and I had an amazing experience, which allowed me to go to the best schools in America. And I want to ensure that every child in APS gets an excellent education. I am a mother. I am the granddaughter of a public school teacher on Navajo Nation. I myself am a professor at the University of New Mexico School of Law. I am an expert in statistics, policy, and regulation. So I think I can bring a background that would be very helpful towards policy making for the school board.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody. That concludes question number 12. We rolled along. So thank you, everybody, for hanging there with us. Now we come to the moment of closing statements. So just a heads up, 30 seconds for closing statements. Timekeepers, 30 seconds. Candidates, 30 seconds. We'll begin with Kristen Wood-Hegner. 30 seconds, closing statements.
Thank you. When I was in elementary school, I was a gifted student. I drove my teacher nuts. She pulled me out of class one day and said, "You're going to teach 2 students who didn't speak English how to speak English." And she gave me a workbook and I sat with them. No student should have to go through that. Every child deserves quality education, and I will advocate for them.
Thank you very much, Kristen. Isaac Flores, closing statement.
So I'm running for APS Board of Education, not as a politician, but as your neighbor and someone who's deeply concerned about the issues of education. I understand the very real problems that APS faces, and I understand from a particular point of view that is special to what I do and what my career is. And I'm asking for your vote because I know that I can make real community change, and I believe that that's exactly what we need on APS Board of Education.
Thank you very much, Isaac Flores. Danielle Gonzalez.
Thank you. Our kids are not all right. Our schools need to improve. And for the first time in decades, APS is going in the right direction. All of our goals are on track. I am a proven change agent, and we need to stay the course to be able to maintain progress for student outcomes. This is a pivotal moment for APS and for our community, and I would be honored to earn your support to be able to continue my service on the school board. And I'd like to thank my kids and my family.
Thank you,
My
Danielle.
husband, that's what I meant.
Very important, very important. Thank you, Danielle. Brian Laurent Jr.
I would like to close with gratitude. Thank you to the MC. Thank you to everyone who attended this evening. Thank you for listening to my values and why I'm running to represent District 5. My closing message is all students can meet high expectations. I was a special education teacher. My median student was at the 3rd grade level, and I taught 7th grade math. My students could learn 7th grade math. All students deserve high quality instruction, and they can meet rigorous goals.
Thank you, Brian. Joshua Martinez, closing statement.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity for allowing us to be here tonight. I'm a husband of a public school educator. I'm a father of 3 young children who attend APS. And I'm running for the school board because it is personal for me. Again, I believe that every student deserves a quality education, and I'm excited for the opportunity to make that a reality. Albuquerque is our home, and when APS thrives, Albuquerque will thrive.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Margaret Warrigia Bowman, closing statement.
I am the mother of 2 boys at APS. They're at Sandia High, Go Matadors. I've overall had an amazing experience, but I know there are students that are not having that amazing experience. I am an educator. I've taught for 18 years, so I know what our teachers are going through. And if I'm elected to the school board, I promise to give you a relentless focus on making sure that our underserved Yazi Martinez kids get the best education possible.
Thank you very much, Warrigia. Last, Courtney Jackson.
Thank you. So I just want to thank you again for the opportunity and the honor to serve as a board member. It has truly been an honor of a lifetime and has blessed my family in many ways. So as a parent and a board member, I remain committed to putting our students first. My focus is on student achievement, accountability, and community engagement. I believe I'm a change agent working to challenge the status quo, and I believe that we are on the right track and need to continue on the track that we are on. So I'd like to ask for your trust and your vote to keep APS moving forward.
Thank you, everybody, very much for your closing responses, your responses to the 12 questions. A lot of work, a lot of thought went into that. So again, it's hard not to say, give them a round of applause because that's where the thing I come from. But once again, thank you very much to those relatives and supporters that joined us via YouTube. So we thank you very much for your time and making the effort to join us today. But also too, on behalf of APS, we would like to thank all the candidates, not only for their participation in tonight's forum, but also for the participation in this democratic process. So it is my pleasure to turn the mic back over to Manny and Trey. Thank you very much.
You know, it was so neat to be able to see government and democracy in person. I'm starting to take government because I'm a senior this year, but we talk about it in class all the time, but now that like it's in person, it's like a whole different story. But so cool.
Yeah, I myself, as a junior in high school right now, I did not know this is how the process works and the behind the scenes. So I want to congratulate and, give kudos to you guys for taking the step and just having the ambition and drive to care about the youth. And with that being said, just like class, let's remind everyone a few important things. Early voting begins on October 7th, and Election Day is November 4th. Voters can find their district and learn more about voter registration, polling locations, the candidates, and more by visiting the Board of Education Elections webpage. Candidates who win the election will begin their 4-year terms on January 1st.
We wish to thank the audience in person and online and our volunteers for their participation in tonight's forum. And of course, a big thank you to our moderator, Leroy Silva. It has been a pleasure to be hosting this event. And also, when I came here, I saw him for the first time and I was all like, that is such a cool haircut. It's just, I had to ask him, I was like, so like, where'd you get this haircut? And he told me like his whole story about it. So I was like, so great guy, love him.
But again, thank you to everyone who helped make tonight's forum possible. This concludes the candidate forum, and remember to get out and vote. Everybody, please be safe tonight.